Welcome to it, sports fans. A different ball game. It is Tuesday. I thought it was Thursday. I really thought it was Thursday. That just shows these COVID times, huh? What are you going to do? I am MKT, and it is, of course, CliffCentral Sport, along with Big Shot Media, doing our thing. So if you're joining us, welcome. Welcome, as they might say in Germany, to CliffCentral Sport. Looking forward to tonight. It is a Q&A, but I will talk tonight. I will give you my greatest test 11 of all time. And then before I get into that, we'll get into where I was wrong and where I was right. So I am with, of course, producer Dave. No Woude tonight, but Dave is with me. So we will carry you through the show. Good evening and welcome. So we're going to get straight into it. I'm going to start with where I was right, where I was wrong. See if I can get some music that I can hear, because I like my earphones sound like I'm in the middle of nowhere. I can't hear anything. It sounds like I'm in a spaceship on a rocket to Mars. But maybe we can fix that before I get going. Dave, see if you can get that music for me in my ears. In my ear. Hey, great day for sport, by the way. If you didn't hear, great day for sport. Hopefully college football is back, because I'm not too sure what the deal is there. By the way, if you don't watch American football, college football is a mess right now, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So let's see if we can get the sound fixed, and then we will get going. Because as I said, we'll start off with where I was right, where I was wrong, and then we will get into, of course, my greatest 11 of all time. So before we get going, I think what we'll do is we'll take a quick break and then we will come back. Dave, can we cut to a break and we'll be back in a minute or so? So we'll go to a break and then we will return with where I was right, where I was wrong. And if you can't hear anything. No. Alrighty, welcome back. Where I was right, where I was wrong. Let's get it going. Looking forward to this one, because it's been a great week for sport. By the way, if you're joining us, thank you so much for joining us. I'll talk to me and Dave tonight. No Woude tonight, but she is back tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Let's start off with where I was right. Look, the Crusaders, the dynasty. When you think of the last 25 years, of 24 competitions in Super Rugby, they've won 10. They've been in numerous finals other than that. Super Rugby just in New Zealand this year, they've gone and won it. But they've done it at a canter. And you know, the hardest thing in the world isn't getting to the top. It's staying at the top. It's been quite incredible. It doesn't happen in sport, especially in New Zealand sport, because it's almost built, or New Zealand rugby, it's almost built like the NFL, right? Parity is king. They decide where players go. They want to serve the All Blacks. It's incredible what the Crusaders have done, the machine they built. The only thing comparable to them, right, is United and the New England Patriots, because dynasties just don't last. Yes, eras come and they dominate, but when you start to talk of a decade, 2 decades, my goodness, the ability to keep refreshing, to keep staying ahead of the game. The Crusaders are, I've said it before, I'll say it again, they are the best rugby team in the world. And I don't just mean club rugby team, they are the best rugby team in the world. If I could play for a rugby team and I was 90 kilograms heavier, I would play for the Crusaders. They are the team to be.
And it's proven again. Super Rugby, they're miles ahead. I think it's quite clear now. The best club rugby is in New Zealand. They are king. Crusaders, congratulations. 11 super titles. I guess it is Aitaroa. It's the first one, but it's 11. 11 in 25 years. And there's been another final. Absolutely incredible. This Robertson guy is just, you thought Robbie Deans had taken it to another level. My God. Absolutely incredible. That's where I was wrong. College football. Listen, I thought aggressive always wins. I expected the Ivy League to drop out. That makes sense. All they care about is actually going to school and books and creating neurosurgeons and accountants and blah, blah, blah. What I thought was the Pac-12, and the Big Ten. I thought the Power 5 might say, get that out of here. Get that noise out of here. Because all the students are coming back. Right? Students in America are going back to campus. We're talking 70, 75,000, some of these big universities, but no sports. Are you kidding me? And I thought, my guy Trevor Lawrence had the best point. Now, that's probably because he wants to win the Heisman, but I don't really care. Is that in American football, some of the conditions, most of the locker rooms, like let's break through the political correct. Most of the locker rooms are black poor players. And the places they have to go back to, some of the players are saying, I'd rather take the risk with Corona, thank you. Because if you don't get killed, you're probably going to be in trouble. And this is the kind of trouble of, okay, I'm a middle class kid who's drunk driving and my dad can pay for a lawyer, my mom can pay for a lawyer. That kind of trouble is you're caught with drugs because that's your only option and you're a criminal now. Remember, every single college has about 150, 200 players in the system. Let's say 180 of those are going back to places that you wouldn't want to have a day in. Now, that might be saying, all right, we've got to take Corona more seriously, but come on, listen, some of these universities are making $7-8 billion a year. Some of these projects and some of the athletic programs, and particularly football, are worth $700-800 million a year. That's some of the really big ones. Ohio State, you go to Texas Longhorns, you go down south. I mean, the Power 5, forget it. All over $500 million operations. Why can't they pay for bubbles? So I don't get it. I just don't understand what is happening. All the players have come out and they said, I want to play. But what I won't hear is that players have signed waivers. That's absolutely ridiculous. Nobody in the world, like in a pandemic, should be forced to go to work and say, if I get ill in something we know nothing about, billion-dollar industries aren't going to pay for it. That's madness. I'm on the players' side there, but for goodness sake, if MLB can do it, if NHL is doing it, and the NFL is going to be fine, come on. So I was wrong. I thought aggressive would win. I thought college football were our own thing, especially the Ivy Leagues or something else. I thought the big schools would want to play. I was wrong. Where I was right, Test cricket's back, and it's the best. It's the best version of the sport. Look, even without fans, how thrilling was it? It was absolutely thrilling to see how the cricket went with Pakistan. Absolutely.
Alrighty, welcome back. The gremlins in the system, huh? In these COVID times. Tell you what, we'll take it from the top. Where I was right, where I was wrong. Listen, the Crusaders, unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable, right? 10th title. They've got 10 Super Rugby titles. They've just won Super Rugby Aotearoa. Quite incredible. But call it 11. 11 in 25 years. Couple of finals. Throw those in there. I've said it before. They're the best rugby team in the world. The Crusaders, I was dead right. I've called that for a long time. They've got the best fly half in the world. They've got the best coach in the world. And the best system. Always system over talent. Absolutely love the Crusaders. Better than the All Blacks. The best run sports club in the world. Only thing comparable, Alex Ferguson's Man United and the New England Patriots. Where I was wrong, college football. I thought the Power Five was going to get it right. The Ivy Leagues, I expect them to drop out. They care about engineers and architects and smart people, and like that's their thing, right? And if you're there, they kind of expect you to be there for school because you're paying like R1 million a year, which is around $90,000 a year. So they care about your books. But everybody else, it's a problem. Trevor Lawrence came out this year. He'll be the number one pick next year. The quarterback, the guy at the Georgia Bulldogs, he says, we want to play. I guess he wants to win a Heisman, but in reality, there's another side. Is that most guys, let's face it, most guys in locker rooms in college football, they come from extremely poor environments. What they're saying is, I'd rather take a chance with COVID than rather take a chance where I got to go back. Because the kind of trouble you get in there, it's not like, oh, I'm drunk driving with my friends and my dad's got the money to pay. It's you're caught with drugs. You're pushing drugs on the street. And then you're a criminal, and then your life's over. So guys are saying, I'm safer at college. I'm safer with regiment. I'm safer with the routine. I'm safer being on a 3-year scholarship. Protected. That's what they want to do. If you haven't seen the hashtag, we want to play. I expected the administrators to be better. They're already trying to win a PR battle against children. It's wrong. People in the media coming out and saying the kids should sign waivers. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It is absolutely asinine. Nobody should have to sign a waiver to say I won't have medical cover if I don't play. Come on. Come on. Don't put kids in that position. And some of these children are going to make money that is going to change the lives of their families forevermore. Absolutely ridiculous. Listen, Pac-12, Big Ten, you've got it wrong. And I thought they'd do it. I thought they'd be aggressive. But I got it wrong. Listen, Test cricket, I was absolutely right. I was absolutely right. There's no better version of the game. Test cricket is the only way. England, Pakistan, if you haven't seen it, great test match. Absolutely great test match. Three wickets. It was close. It was thrilling. No fans. It's the best. You can't get that roller coaster in anything else. You let it develop. Another 5-day thriller. I was dead right. Test cricket, best version of it all. Where I was wrong, I thought all fans were going to become more self-aware this season. It's like it's another season finishing out of the top 6. It's another season being mediocre. No, they beat Chelsea. They think, we're the biggest club in London. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense to me that Aubameyang's staying, by the way. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. But Arsenal fans, lack of self-awareness, it's going to kill you. That's why you haven't won a title in something like 20 years now. It's only 20 years. Well, what's 04? 2004. That's more. Oh, my goodness. I'm wrong. It's 24 years, 26 years, no title. I mean, stop it. Get out of here. You're not a big club anymore. You're just making up the numbers. Where I was right, I think this is where I'd love to hear from Man United fans. I said the Jadon Sancho thing, the number's too big for me. The number is too big for me. 108 million, I'm not paying that because I've already seen the worst part of him, the character issues. That's character issues. I can't work with that. He went for a haircut in lockdown. He broke the lockdown rules. And if he's doing it at 21, what do you think he's going to do after you give him £300,000? That's the problem with young people, is that money doesn't change you, people. It just makes you more of who you are. If Sancho can't listen to the rules, Sancho's been fined 6 or 7 times by Borussia Dortmund for being late. He's on like 40 or 50,000 pounds a week. They're going to give him 300,000 pounds a week. What do you think he's going to do? So I said the number's too high. There's no way Man United are paying that number and bringing him in. And now it doesn't seem like he's coming. I don't think United were comfortable with anything over 60 or 70 million pounds. Borussia Dortmund has said, go jump in a lake. But I was right. I said it. Sancho to United, not as clear cut as it seemed. Where I was wrong, my God, the NHL are leading the way in terms of how to run this bubble story. The least important of all the sports in America, of the big ones. But they have got it so right. 2 towns, everybody's locked down, everybody's getting on with it. Them and the MLS. But NHL has got it dead right. They negotiated a new negotiation deal. I mean, just incredible. Absolutely incredible how the NHL, of all the sports, the least affluent of all the sports, were the best. They were united. They got it together. They got all their best players to buy in. The commissioner got everyone to buy in. They're in 2 bubbles. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. NHL, big up. The best leader in sport right now. They've got it dead right. So I was dead wrong about them. Where I was right, Australian rugby. Are you kidding me? If you watched Australian rugby this weekend, the biggest joke, they shouldn't call it sport. That was tiddlywinks. It was embarrassing. They are absolutely embarrassing, and they should be shocked. They should be shocked at what they're presenting to the world as Australia. Yes, I understand it's your 6th or 7th sport, but do me a favor. Do not put that on TV. Put that somewhere 8 feet underground. It doesn't deserve to be on TV. Absolutely revolting. But I was right. Australian rugby is a shambles. Rugby as a whole, amateur. It's being run amateur. South African rugby, what's happening? Why are they not communicating with the fans? Nobody knows. What's happening? Is there Super Rugby next year? Why aren't you priming us as fans to go, what's going to happen after this? Look at all the companies and sports that have flourished. Is you got to give the fans hope. Let us know what's happening in 6 months' time. Okay, we understand there's a world pandemic, but what's happening in the future? What are your plans? What are you doing? Zero communication from New Zealand. Zero communication from Australia. From South Africa. They deserve to be in the mess they're in. But Australian rugby, what a joke. Where I was wrong, Brooks Koepka, I thought, okay, here's the guy. On the weekend, I was dead wrong. Morikawa did his thing. And the Koepka thing, it's so weird because why can't he play during the season? It's so strange to me. It is so strange to me. Is that during the season, he's useless. At the majors, he turns to come to the party. What is going on with this guy? I thought this was the guy who might actually be able to come and, I don't know, kind of take over from Tiger. No good. Brooks, I'm so disappointed. I was dead wrong about that. Where I was right, the NFL is going to forge ahead, people. They are the kings. They're watching everybody else. They're back in preseason training. The camps are open. They're going. If you haven't seen it, what they're calling the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course. They are doing their thing. Same owners as Manchester United. Tom Brady and Gronk are down there. That's going to be a mess for anybody in that division. Spring training is underway. The camps are open. Mahomes is at it. Social media is rocking. The NFL is, we will forge ahead. We are not interested in what anybody else has to say. That's what college football should have done. Aggressive always wins, people. There is always, around every corner, there's always a disaster waiting to happen. NFL says, we don't care. Get out of our faces. We're going to make this thing happen. And lastly, where I was wrong. Listen, the Broads actually seem to have one Broad you can like. Chris Broad has, his first fine is to fine his own son 15% of his match fee for language unbecoming. So Chris Broad has said, Stuart, I will not have that language in the family. 15% of his fee, of his match fee. Who knew? A Broad we would like. I was dead wrong. Never thought I'd say that in my lifetime. Never thought I would say that in my lifetime. Listen, that's where I was wrong. I was right. Humble enough to say when I'm wrong. Humble enough to say when I was right. You know, you got to cop it. No one's perfect. Got to be willing to stand up and say when you were wrong. But now I'm going to pick my my greatest team of all time. And it's something that's been requested is pick your greatest cricket team of all time. Would love to hear what people have to think. This is, remember, I only care about Test cricket, by the way. So don't come here with your one-day cricket nonsense or T20. Like, to me, that's I always call it pajama cricket. So let's get into that. I'm going to start off with of course, at the top of the order. Facing first ball. This one's really easy for me. It always felt like he was batting with a barn door, and what he did after he came back from being dropped has never been matched before. Aggressive, game-changing, and just he would shape the cricket match from the very first ball. Average of 50 as an opening batsman. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. As an opening bat, the hardest job in cricket, in all of cricket, opening test cricket. He's got a 50 average. He's got more hundreds than he has 50s. It's insane. It's insane. The greatest opening batsman of all time, Matthew Hayden. His partner. And listen, this guy's numbers is not why he gets into my team. All right, so it's because this guy is the perfect foil for the other guy. They're the best opening partnership of all time. So why would you break that up? The numbers aren't what does it, because you could easily go Alistair Cook, Graham Smith. But remember, I don't always think you should pick the best individual for the best team. Although I'd rather have Langer than anybody else, actually. Tough. And he got big runs. When he was in, he was in. I mean, look at that average. Opening the batting above 45, I'll take it. 2300s, tells you, goes deep. 30-50s, so he'll see it off. I mean, tough as nails. The perfect foil. Because then he lets Hayden do what he does. 105 test matches. You don't last in Australia unless you're doing your thing, especially in the 2 eras he was in. Absolutely brilliant up front. So that's impossible to beat, right? Because they dominated test cricket for 10 years, those two. So greatest opening. At number 3, listen, this one picks itself. He's the greatest batsman of all time. And it's not close. Because what's important is to win, people. He was part of 2 eras. And then he was also the captain in the next era. It's important not only to win, but you need leadership. He showed he could do both. Look at that record. 51 at number 3 in the pressure cooker. 41 test 50s, 13,000 test runs. The greatest batsman of all time, Ricky Ponting. It's an easy one. Aggressive, shaped a cricket game from 3. And they say, your number 3 is the guy who's really going to shape the test match for you. The best to ever do it. Ricky Ponting at number 3. Number 4. Also really easy. He's the best cricketer of all time. He's the best cricketer of all time. Look at that average. 13,000 test runs. It's insane. But then he's got 292 test wickets as well. So if the other team happens to be playing pretty well, I mean, this guy, he has 200 catches, by the way. Safe at first slip, second slip, boundary rider. Quite incredible. Jacques Kallis, the greatest cricketer of all time. 4,500s. The Kallis bubble at number 4. At number 5, and this one's not hard for me at all, because this guy's the greatest batsman of all time. He's that 62 average. I mean, Ponting at the moment purely because he's finished. But Steve Smith, if he retired right now, he goes on as the greatest. That number's ridiculous. And for our podcast audience, we've highlighted his average. It's 62.8 after 73 test matches. It's insane. He's the GOAT. Between him and Ponting, fight it out. But I think Smith is the guy. The only reason I say Ponting is his career and his story has been written. I think Steve Smith has 4 or 5 years. But it's insane that he's still batting at 62 right now. And that's all around the world. He's insane. Steve Smith, number 5. At number 6, it's my captain. And the only captain. There's only one captain in the history of Test cricket. There's only one. There is only one. The better of the Waugh brothers. Steve Waugh is the most magnificent thing ever. And remember, I always say this. Dressing rooms have to run themselves. The coach of this team, who I'll pick at the end, this guy ran the team. I mean, if you've read any books about what Steve Waugh was, he ran the team. He is the Roy Keane of my team. I don't care how much talent you have. If you don't have a leader to squash all their egos, you're dead. Steve Waugh, my guy, 10,000 test runs, 51 test average, and probably the toughest cricketer you've ever seen. Stopped pulling at a stage. So he'd rather let the ball hit him. He'd rather let it hit him. Like, okay, I always top edge it. I'm out. No elbow guard, no chest guard, no problems. Led from the front, tough as nails. Famous for his line to Herschel Gibbs, of course, in that Super 6 game when Herschel Gibbs tried to throw the ball up and he dropped it. And Steve Waugh went on, of course, to do as he always did. Punish South Africa at 800. He said, "You've just dropped the World Cup, mate." A very, very famous line. Steve Waugh, my God, nothing like it. And it's not close. He's the greatest captain cricket's ever seen. It's not close. Border. In fact, you can go with whoever you want. Steve Waugh is the absolute greatest, and it's not close for me. At number 7, once again, here's the thing. With that top 6, is I'm going to need somebody who's going to, decide the game. What the French might call a coup de grace. I remember sitting at the Wanderers, seeing 256 runs getting smashed all around me. Not sure if you remember. There was a gold bar. It went just above my head. We had Neil McKenzie on the show a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago. I didn't realize Neil McKenzie was bowling the ball where he had been swept over my head at the wooden stands and nearly won R1 million for himself. Adam Gilchrist is not close. He changed the wicketkeeper game, right? Is before him is your keeper had to be a good gloveman, and then if he could bat at 8 or 9, okay. But we've never seen anything like Gilchrist. We've never. And look at that. I've highlighted his strike rate for our podcast audience, 81.95 with an average of 47 with 5,000 test runs. Adam Gilchrist was a game changer. That is why he gets into my team. Even if we're on 300 for 5, do you know what I need? I need 450 for 5 in the last session. Here's the guy. If we're 140 for 5, no problem. I need to be at 300 for 6 in no time. Here's the guy, 81 strike rate, 47 average. He changed the game. He absolutely changed the game. And at number 8, here's a guy who's really an all-rounder. He's really an all-rounder. But his bowling numbers are ridiculous. 22 average. Look at that strike rate. 9 fizz. 86 matches. So it's not a highlights package. It's not like, okay, he kind of did it in little patches. And he was in a university team. New Zealand have always been muck at cricket. Sir Richard Hadley is my guy. Whether you give him the new ball or the first change, it doesn't matter. But then you have to realize he averaged 20, nearly 28 with the bat. He's got 2 test centuries, 15 50s. He's an all-rounder. He's not a bowler. He's one of the greatest bowlers of all time, and it's not close. 22 bowling average. He's got 3,000 test runs. It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's ridiculous. Richard Hadley, the great Sir Richard Hadley. At number 9, and I had to put him here because he's the best of what's left in terms of the batting. And as South Africans, I've never understood it. We think there's a prize for humility. Guys, what we've just had in Dale Steyn is the greatest strike rate, certainly. The only punishment I have for Dale Steyn, why I don't call him the best test bowler of all time, is he couldn't go to India and deliver us from evil. Because that pushes you over the edge. It pushes you from great to pantheon. You win in India, and that's why there's so many Australians on this list. You win in India, you go from great to pantheon, to untouchable. You go to Valhalla, as the Swedish might say. That's the only place Dale Steyn playing. But a strike rate of 42.3, it means every 7 overs. And nobody's ever done this in history, not spinners, nobody. It means every 7 overs, Dale Steyn guarantees you a wicket. Are you kidding me? So if he bowls for a day, you're guaranteed 3. You really need to worry about taking 7 wickets as the rest of the bowling lineup. How comforting is that for a captain? It's why Graham Smith was so great. You almost don't have to captain the team when you've got a guy taking a wicket every 7 overs. At number 9, the great. 26 fifers, 5 10 fizz. Amazing. At number 10, this one's really easy. Let me tell you what it's about. It's like having 2 players. Because Shane Warne in the first innings, what he lets you do is have Richard Hadley and Dale Steyn rotating from both ends. He'll bowl 45 overs. Doesn't matter. Incredibly accurate, considering he was a leg spinner. But then you look at 708 wickets as well. The thing about Warne is, even when he was defending, because he had so many variations of the leg spinner, and he chapped so many people, really his bunny was Daryl Cullinan. But Herschel Gibbs was his other one. What did he do with the drift? Right? He figured out that the revs would help him with the drift and the dip. It was unplayable, and he was an LBW nightmare, by the way. LBW nightmare, Shane Warne. Bowled wicket to wicket and was quite incredible. Developed something beautiful called the flipper. Barely used it All he cared about was the leg spinner. But the greatest bowler of all time for me, Shane Warne at number 10. 25 average, 708 wickets, 10 firsts. And to round it out, at 11, the man I call the greatest seamer of all time, right? So Steyn is second only because he hasn't won in India. The Pigeon. Look at that average. 21.64. That means every wicket is worth 21.64 runs. 560 of them. That matters, people. That matters. It's absolutely incredible that all three of the fast bowlers I've picked, their averages are below 23. From the top, Matthew Hayden opens with Langer. At number 3, the greatest of all time, Ricky Ponting. At number 4, Jacques Kallis. At number 5, Steve Smith. At number 6, Steve Waugh. He's my captain. He'll be the glue in the dressing room. I mean, the egos in this team. They'll need Steve Waugh to make sure they're shackled. At number 7, the greatest wicketkeeper batsman of all time. He changed the game. It wasn't like that before. You were just a wicketkeeper before. And then it wasn't good enough if you couldn't average 50 in Test cricket to be a keeper. There still hasn't been another one. People might say, where's Kumar Sangakkara? I'm sorry, I don't need Kumar in the team. I've already got Adam Gilchrist. And Kumar was a classical batsman. And Kumar's not better than Ponting, Kallis, Smith, or Waugh. So no place for Kumar Sangakkara, I'm afraid. Adam Gilchrist at number 7. At number 8, all-rounder. I know I've listed him as a bowler. All-rounder Richard Hadley. Averaged 22 with the ball, 27 with the bat. 2 Test hundreds, 15 50s. 431 wickets. It's insane. He never gets the credit because he really played in a pub team, New Zealand. But a pantheon great. Top 5 greatest fast bowlers of all time. Dale Steyn gets himself in. 42 strike rate. I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it. Nobody's ever done what he's done. If he'd won in India, he'd be the greatest bowler of all time. Never mind seamer. I think he's second only to the 2 men below him. Or third. Shane Warne. 2 bowlers. Defending the first innings. And then the second. No matter where you are in the world, the second innings is a nightmare. Warne's accurate. Any rough from Lee, Gillespie, McGrath that they've created for Australia, it's a nightmare. If you're left-handed, it's a nightmare. If you're right-handed, ask Mike Gatting. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Ball of the century, the greatest. Shane Warne's the greatest. First, second innings, he's the biggest threat. 360-degree threat cricket's ever faced. Murali Dhuran, first innings, useless. Second innings, Murali was a problem. Shane Warne, intelligent, the best. Glenn McGrath, I'll say nothing about him. Accurate, top of off stump, always a threat. LBW, caught behind, and could swing it both ways. The greatest, 563 wickets, 21 average. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my Test cricket all-time 11. I don't know how you're beating that. It's all dynasties, right? Australia's the dynasty. They're the best cricket team of all time. That team, I mean, you're not beating that team. And I'm not just imagining that. You're literally not beating them because they went and won 3 World Cups in a row. Don't care about that, but it tells you what it was about. And then the coach. It's a simple choice. It's a simple choice. The man who took Australia to 3 World Cups in a row, for those of you that care about that, but then 16 Test match wins in a row. And I know Shane Warne always reduces his achievements because Warne seems to think Buchanan inherited a good team anyway from Taylor. But what he did is outrageous. It's never been done again. 16 Test wins in a row. The best. John Buchanan. No nonsense. No nonsense. I absolutely love that about him. Love to know what people think. Mostly Australia. With a few upgrades. Kallis is better than Martin, right? Because that's who batted 6 or 5 for them. Kallis is better than him. And then the bowling, I think Lily's definitely better than Gillespie. And then Steyn is better than Brett Lee. I think Brett Lee's got a 30 average. So, he served his purpose, but he's nowhere near Dale Steyn. Love to know what people think. I would love to know what people think. That is my Test 11, folks. Right, Dave, it's after this, I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll get to some questions. Let's see if there's any questions for me. We will get to that in a minute or so. So looking forward to doing a Q&A after this. All righty. Welcome back to it. Let's get straight into the questions. Dave, what do you have for me? Mark Francis, I'm sorry I can't take this 11 seriously without one West Indian great. They dominated more than any other cricket team over the longest period in cricket history. Hey, Mark, that can't be true. I think both you and I know that, because Australia dominated, right, from Alan Border right to the end of Ricky Ponting. That's 30 years. The West Indies dominated for like 12 years. And I presume you're talking about Clive Lloyd's era. Where's the World Cup? Because I know people take the World Cup into account. Where's that? Australia won 3 World Cups in a row, 16 test matches in a row. So I think what tends to happen with that West Indian team is we romanticize it and we don't look at the numbers. So people think that happened for 20 years. It didn't. Australia literally dominated from Alan Border. So you can go and look at the early 90s, from around 92, right? Until very recently. And some might say they're still in the pound seats, but you could argue for England. It's nearly 30 years of dominance. So I love the West Indians. But pro sport is about winning. Pro sport is about winning. Did the West Indians win in India? No. And the greatest challenge in cricket, I've always said this, is the greatest challenge in cricket isn't winning the World Cup. It's winning a 5 test match series in India. And if you haven't done that, I'm sorry, I can't compare you to the Australian team that did and won 3 World Cups in a row and has the world record for most test match wins in a row. If the West Indies had that, I'd say, okay, let me defer to that. And yes, the flair, I get it. Sometimes the shiny things are nicer, the calypso cricket. But there's no statistical evidence to suggest the West Indies dominated more than Australia. It's just not true. So, Mark, I'd love to agree with you. And I'd love to say, yes, you're right, but you're not. I'm sorry, you're implicitly wrong. Clive Lloyd's truly great team, and the documentaries I would presume you're referring to, is really 6 or 7 years when they really had that thing singing, right? That's like 85 to about 92. Then they really had it cooking. And then they had the famous 4, of course. But no, you're wrong. You're wrong. They didn't win 3 World Cups in a row. So, Mark, I'd love to agree with you, but no. Unless you win, I'm afraid. Dave, what you got for me next? Yeah, but listen, when we talk, yes, and people say, keep referring back to this. When I say World Cup, I meant, sorry, what about the pros? It's got to be in the pros, guys. Sorry. I'm aware of those World Cups. To be honest with you, the new guys are the best. Right? Where have they been? Where have they been now? And don't tell me those guys are beating the guys today. They are not beating the guys today. So 97, 95, 79 and 75. I'm aware of those victories, but I count when things got pro. So I don't count amateur days when I talk about sport. Yeah. Next question, Dave. Graham Smith was a magnificent leader and better batting numbers. What do you say about men lie, women lie? Look, the Graham Smith argument is all good and well. But is Graham Smith... I don't need Graham Smith when I've already got Matthew Hayden. Remember, opening batsman combos are not just about picking the best guy. You've got to have the complement. So Graham Smith and Matthew Hayden are very much the same thing. I mean, Graham Smith, let's be very clear, is a poor man's version of Matthew Hayden. Let's be very, very clear about that. I'm not comparing the two. It's not close. So I've already got Steve Waugh. Why do I need... You don't need too many bulls in one crop. I've already got Steve Waugh as my captain. Why do I need Graham Smith? Graham Smith isn't better than Matthew Hayden, and I've already got my anchor. So Graham Smith needed the other guy. So he needed Herschel Gibbs, right, to make him great as well, to flourish. So I've already got Langer. He'll keep it locked. So for me, it's not even close. If anybody thinks Graham Smith is better than Justin Langer, I'm befuddled. I don't even know what to do about that. Dave, what you got? Senzo says Hayden, Cook, Ponting, Cullis, Waugh, Hussey. All right, Mr. Cricket thrown in there. Gilchrist, Akram, Warne, Steyn, McGrath. So Akram instead of Dennis Lilly, huh? All right. It's an interesting one. Mike Hussey rather than... So there's no room in there. Wow, Mike Hussey. That's an interesting one. So Mike Hussey is your greatest. Wow. Okay. Fair enough. I guess we're all entitled. Alistair Cook being there is an absolute joke. I'm sorry. You have to win as well, by the way. People, that's important. Is you have to win and dominate in the best eras of cricket. So Mark Francis, I think this is, you see, now you're making a point. But Mark, here's once again my argument, is he was part of great teams, Sachin Tendulkar, by the way. So it's not like Azruddin wasn't around with him. It's not like he didn't have Dravid with him. Why couldn't he win? That Indian team of the 90s and the noughties. So Mark Francis, I think this is a great point. And people will say, oh, he's got the biggest numbers. But Mark, don't you think winning is important? It's all good and well to have, what does he have, 50 centuries or whatever it is. I think 100 centuries across both formats. I agree with that. I agree. People always say, where's Tendulkar? But Sachin, I need you to take me to the promised land. It's no good. It's a team sport. It's not tennis. It's not golf. I always argue for this, is who are the people that lift everybody else? It's why I take Ponting. Ponting drove his team to levels cricket has never seen. Sachin Tendulkar didn't do that for everybody else. He did it for himself. And that's all good and well if you're playing tennis, if you're playing golf. Why couldn't he take Dravid? Why couldn't he take Azruddin? Why couldn't he take Sehwag to those? So listen to the VVS Laxman. So it's not like he was playing with trash. Tendulkar had great players around. Why couldn't they win? That's important to me. If you look at the team, so Dave, maybe we can bring the team up again, because I think, people get caught up in purely numbers. I think numbers should separate if it's close. If you look at this team, Cullis was part of probably the second greatest modern day Test dynasty after the Australians. Right? Smith's dynasty was incredible. They won a lot away as well, other than India. They drew in India, of course, but they won a lot. But from the top, Hayden Langer, Ponting, all part of those two eras, winning, right? Under War, Smith, winning. He's been part of 2 World Cup winning teams, and he just kept winning. Steve Waugh, I don't need to say anything. He was part of 3 winning dynasties. Adam Gilchrist is Adam Gilchrist. They won everything. The Hadley one slightly more difficult to argue for in terms of a winning sense. But what do I do about a guy that averages 22 with the ball, has 430 wickets, and can get me 50s as well? And also in this bowling lineup, I need a bit of nastiness in my bowling lineup. You could argue Malcolm Marshall. You could. But then I lose the batting. What if we get in trouble? And as for the rest of the guys, is Dale Steyn, part of probably the greatest modern day bowling era of all time. Him, Philander, Rabada, and Morkel. Following the Australians. Then I got Shane Warne and McGrath. I mean, you have to win. Stop telling me, guys, I understand the numbers, but all of these teams, why it's Australia is they won for 30 years. They won for 30 years. And to be clear, this is why this is a test team. So, yeah, nothing I can do about that. You got to win. But Mark Francis, I think it's a great point. Tendulkar, maybe in some people's teams, not mine. Never been a fan. Fan of him, but I would never, ever take him before I took Ponting, and I wouldn't take him before I took Steve Smith, to be honest with you. Dave, what you got for me? All right, we'll take 2 questions in a row here, and then I'll answer both of them. Steve Waugh isn't a 6. Well, that's what he batted. Okay, fair enough. Mike Hussey is a pure 6. 79 tests, 6,235 runs, 51.52 average, 1900s, 29 50s. See, the problem is Steve. He's not better than Steve Waugh because Steve Waugh had those numbers over 100 tests. So already, I'd have to say I stick with Waugh. And then, by the way, this is important, and I always say it: a captain's the most important most important player in world-class teams, because dressing rooms run themselves, guys. At that level, you don't need to coach players, and coaches can't have a handle on 11 guys. The greatness of Australia. So if people want to understand why Australia dominated for so long and why the West Indies were unable to sustain it, after Clive Lloyd left, they've never had anybody. Brian Lara wasn't a captain. Be serious. Be serious. He wanted to party and be one of the guys. Right? They had nothing. Carl Hooper wasn't a captain. Soft-spoken, good player. Viv Richards, also a cool guy. So the thing about Australia is this is what happens. Border, Taylor, Waugh, Clark. The captain's the most important person. Stop worrying about the talent. And Mike Hussey's numbers are no better than Steve Waugh. And then I'm going to get that, the leadership. It's not close. It's not close for me. It's not even, no. Not even. It's not even, I forget it. And especially for me is when you're in trouble, is there a guy in the history of cricket you want coming in other than Steve Waugh? Think of all the great innings when he came in with Australia 90 for 4. Oh, no, they got 450. Oh, no. Because now Gilchrist has come in as well. So, no, unfortunately for me, hey, Mr. Cricket, very good. But if you double Mike Hussey's career, that's what Steve Waugh had, and he's your captain. And for me, the most important player. So, love Mike Hussey, but you're not. Steve Waugh's the first name on the sheet for me. Dave, what we got? Okay, so Mark Francis has given his team. Already a problem I'm seeing is Tendulkar didn't open in Test cricket. Opening in one-day cricket and Test cricket's different, but okay, let's go with the team. It is your team. So Tendulkar, Dravid, Cullis, Ponting as your captain. Viv Richards, it's an interesting team. Viv Richards is coming in at 4. Adam Gilchrist at 5. Pollock, Holding, Akram, Warne, Mutai, Muralidharan. Wow, that's a long tail, huh? So, Mark, first of all, you've played no genuine opening batsman. Just to be clear, none of those players. Let's be very clear. Opening in Test cricket and one-day cricket's not the same thing. There's a reason Sachin Tendulkar. So, the old argument, and it's what South Africa, I think, took too long to get to, is your best player always bats at 4. Right? I've got Ponting there because I think Smith is on his way to being better than him. Okay. I mean, it's an interesting one, but I'd love to know what people think. I believe the hardest position in cricket, and Mark Francis, that's a very interesting team. And you've got 2 spinners. I wonder if you need both Mutai and Shane Warne. Maybe. Some people will argue, hey, if you're playing in India, take 2 spinners. And Vasim gives you that variation with the left arm. Michael Holding. Oh, I mean, say no more. The Whisper. Polly. All right, all-rounder. That is still a long tail. You got Holding, Wasim, Warne, and Mutai. So where Holding is, I've got a guy with 300s and 15 50s. That's an interesting team. So, Mark, the only argument I have, Mark, those are all great players. Opening batsman is a specialist position. Dravid is a number 3, and Tendulkar batted 4. They protected Tendulkar with Dravid for most of his career, and they tried with VVS until they realized VVS wasn't the guy. So, interesting team. And it's interesting that you would pick Ponting above Steve Waugh as a captain. I find that very interesting. But, hey, this is the beauty of picking teams. But for me, hardest position in Test cricket is opening batsman. Mark Francis says, Pollock can bat, so is backup, if we're in trouble, better than Steyn? Sure. But Pollock is he a better bowler than Steyn? Because if I've got Hadley, I've already got an equivalent bowler, right? And Pollock averaged 32 with the bat, so you could argue for him slightly with the bat. But is he a better bowler than, is Sean Pollock a better bowler than Sir Richard Hadley? And I think, Mark Francis, you're making some great points. It's going to take something for me to get Hadley out. Senzo says, Wasim Akram is a better all-rounder than Richard Hadley. I agree, but it's close. And what gets it for me in terms of Hadley to explain that one, is I need a bit of nastiness. I need one of my fast bowlers, because Steyn, and he didn't have that edge. I know his celebration was a bit wild, but he wasn't like nasty in your face. McGrath's not a nasty guy, right? You think of the great Australians. The guy who had to do the nasty stuff was Gillespie and Lee. They got in your face. Warren even more so. But Richard Hadlee, listen, just watch the tape. Go on YouTube, Richard Hadley's greatest spells. Nasty, short stuff, and he's in your face. You need that. You need a few dimensions. But Wasim Akram, great bowler. Oh, my goodness. The greatest left armer of all time. But once again, I need people that know how to win. I love winning DNA in my teams. Hey, Wasim, take nothing away from Wasim. I love Wasim Akram. And also, 150 kilometers from a left-hander. Awesome. Jesse Randolph, hey, it's 16 years. How long has it been since United won a title? 8 years? I'm not sure. I believe in Arteta just like Aubameyang. Jesse, it's interesting to me that you think Aubameyang will be there next season. I'm hesitant. Whenever a deal takes this long, usually what players do is they announce their deal after the final day, especially after you've won. It should be worrying to you that Aubameyang's saying anything. Yes, 16 years, 20 years. I mean, Jesse, it's been Leicester have won a title since you last won one. Man City went from a championship team to one of the best teams in Europe and won 3 titles. Chelsea have won 5 titles. 5 titles since Arsenal last won theirs. Man City have won 4. Wow. Yeah, I just, Jesse, it's nothing personal. I just think Arsenal need to get real. And I like Arteta. I do like Arteta. Could it be the start of something? Will they give him 5 years? Because you need to get that losers mentality out of Arsenal. Is it possible? Jesse, I'd love to know what you think, because I love the Arsenal. But everything they've done has eroded. They've just sacked 55 people. You know what's been interesting about Arsenal is you've watched their DNA crumble slowly. Because, here's something that never gets addressed. Arsene Wenger, yes, great. He inherited the great Arsenal back four. And people always argue this, is as soon as that eroded completely, Arsenal have never been the same. So the famous Arsenal back four, back five, if you will, if you don't know, are famous for creating the chance 1-0 to the Arsenal. And that was Seaman at the back, Dixon on the right, Winterburn on the left, Keown in the middle, with Bold, of course, and Adams. Well, it was Bold and Adams, and then Keown came in slightly after. So once that kind of eroded, and that sort of center went away, you were never really the same again. He went on to do a tremendous job, of course, with the Invincibles. But then you started seeing Arsenal eroding. And for those who don't know, Arsenal were always viewed as the classy club. The classy club of the Premier League. But you look at some of the players and some of the things that have been happening lately. Guendouzi, that being allowed over a season. It's gotten ugly. It's gotten ugly. And there's an accusation that Arsene Wenger really inherited a dynasty from George Graham anyway. So some of his success should be accredited to him. But I'm not making that accusation. I'm just telling you it's out there even within Arsenal fans. So 16 years, no title. I think it's time to accept you're a mid-table club now. Dave, what you got? Lulama says, I agree with you. 100 million is ESCOM numbers. It's too much. That's the comment of the year. It's just, guys, here's what I worry about. Is when it's not a talent problem, when it's a character problem, as with anything in life, I'll say it again. Money doesn't change people. It makes you more of who you are. If Jadon Sancho is late for training now, and I was reading a report today, he was late 6 times and fined for another incident, the 7th fine at Borussia Dortmund. That's him at 21 earning 30,000, 40,000 pounds a week. What do you think he becomes on 400,000 pounds? So I'll tell you what Man United have said is, not that number. So they're playing the media games at the moment. You'll probably see if a deal gets done, it'll land somewhere between 80 and 90, which is still insane for me because it's like Luke Shaw. it was my concern with Paul Pogba paying a world record for him, is that if guys have character issues where they were before, where they were comfortable, what do you think they're going to do now? So for me, Jadon Sancho, first of all, I wouldn't sign Jadon Sancho. A player that's late early, right? That character trait is gonna last forever. I wouldn't sign him for £1. No, thank you. I'm out. But once again, in the world we live in, it's this: production versus tolerance, right? If your production is higher than what we have to tolerate, no problem. But tolerance will never be higher than production. If they sign Jadon Sancho, and trust me on this one, because they've made the mistake with Pogba already. If they sign Sancho now, and he doesn't hit the ground running, I'm talking about 10 assists, 10 goals in the first season, he's out. Because Woodward then is on the hot seat for real. For real. So for me, you know what number I'm comfortable with? 55, between 55 and 65. That's the only number I'm comfortable with for Jadon Sancho. And more than that, next please. Eskom numbers. Lulama Kabaga. Absolute joke. Love that one. Dave, what you got for me next? Since the PSL is run better than South African rugby, isn't it scary to say that? Senzo Sitebe, you have nailed it. Isn't it? And that is a scary thought. Because the PSL is run like a spaza shop. It is run like a mom and pop spaza shop. Listen, I hate to harp on about it. Rugby across the board is so amateur, and it's pathetic. The clubs have more powers than the unions. So a small club in Border, because of how our structure set up, has more power than the Blue Bulls. At the very least, they have equal power, but in some cases, smaller clubs, because there's more smaller sort of unions, have more power than the Bulls, than the Stormers, or Province, than the Lions. It's like telling me the janitor has more executive power than the CEO. What world are we living in? It's pathetic, but it all cascades. It's a concatenation from what you see in IRB. Sanzar's been a mess forever. You know, I think it all relates to this. Nokia, BlackBerry. I read a great book by Vusi Tembogwayo, where he's talking about exponentiality. He says Nokia and BlackBerry were dead 5 years before they realized they were dead. You're never dead in the moment that the doors close of your company. Companies are dead 5 years before. They just don't realize their ego. This is what happened to Sanzar. This is what happened to South African rugby, is we're the biggest, so we're the best. Don't ever make that mistake again, right? Being the biggest doesn't mean you're the best, right? Being the best means you can become the biggest. Let's be very clear. That's not the same thing. Sanzar, SA Rugby, the All Blacks, or New Zealand Rugby, you fell into that trap. You presumed we're the biggest, so we're the best. It's the BlackBerry, it's the Nokia, it's the Nikon mistake. It's the Kodak mistake. We're the biggest, so we're the best. Incorrect. You have to be the best, and then you can be the biggest. And you don't always need to be the biggest to be the best. So always aim to be the best, and they forgot that number one fundamental. Businesses are dead 5 years before they die, not the day that they close their doors. It's a theory of exponentiality. Very, very interesting book. Vusi Tembogwayo. I highly recommend it. Senzo Sitebe says, problem with rugby is that it's an old boys club. That needs to stop. Senzo, it's a great point. It's a great point. But it's you could even say that with cricket, right? I mean, Dave Richardson is one guy who will still answer questions. Why did he sell cricket to India, to England, and to Australia? And don't give me that nonsense about the pulling power of India. It is his job to act as a commissioner and say, guys, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like the English Premier League, let's spread the love, and then in 5-10 years, the whole world is more competitive. Oh, you know what happens? Sponsors go, oh my goodness. Now, instead of maybe just the Ashes being an interesting test series, there's maybe 5 or 6 interesting test series. Oh, sponsorship money. Parity is king, people. Dave Richardson looked after himself, his regime. He cared about his own era instead of saying, what's the big picture in cricket? So I accuse cricket of being amateur as well. So Senzo, I agree with you, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that they won't let go. They won't look at the NFL. They won't look at the NBA. Revenue share. They won't look at the Premier League's the model, people. The Premier League's the model. Wake up. Let go of... This is how the Premier League did it. If you haven't seen it, we had an episode with a guy called John Smith. He explained to us why the Premier League had to leave the EFL, the Football League, and subsequently divorce the FA, really. Get the bureaucrats out of the way. Let the billionaires do what they do. They innovate. Let the billionaires do that, and let the bureaucrats make the rules so that it's sustainable. Right? You let the horse run, and what do? You've got reins on a horse. You rein it in. So the billionaires can't just do what they want in the NFL. They got Roger Goodell. They have to account. There's a salary cap. I'm not saying that's the model for us, but there is corporate governance. You let the governors create that, whilst the billionaires create the product, and they try and make it as big as possible. And you let the governors and the bureaucrats say, no, there's a framework. There's sustainability measures. That's your problem as bureaucrats. The billionaires, it's go and sell the product to China. Go and sell rugby to China. But we're not doing that. We still think the Buller against Province is a big game being played at Loftus. Come on, guys. Come on. Silly. Dave, what we got going? Senzo, great point. And Mark Fisher before that. Mark Francis, excuse me. Great points as well. Mark Francis says, I rate Pep as a quality leader and a development manager. He and Klopp, in my book, are the best in the world. Mark, I think you're making great points about both of those two. You know, Mark, to amplify your point, and I'd love to know what you think. You know, people always think, oh, he had Messi, he had Xavi, he had Puyol, so it was easy. It's quite the opposite. If you've worked in any organization, you've been at what we as South Africans call slapgat organizations. Lazy people where you're always having to pick up their work. You know what it's like to work in those environments. But let me tell you the thing about greatness. And I have to be very honest now. I work with two great titans of industry in the industry that I work in. The expectations are sky high. And if you think Pep Guardiola had a day off with a guy like Leo Messi, with Xavi, with Puyol, the demands from the players are sky high. So it's much more difficult to manage that, trust me, than to go and manage Southampton. So Pep, I have to agree with you, in order to be able to keep it going that long, 3 seasons, my God. And Jurgen Klopp, I'm hesitant on Mr. Francis, because it's always good for him. It's always been pretty good, right? He's always had, oh, you're the underdog, boo-hoo, Dortmund, Munich have all the money. So he's always the chaser, and, the media is with you. Ask Man United fans, ask Chelsea fans what it's been like the last 20 years. It's very different when you go from chaser to being chased. And there's one big killer. Everybody knows it in life. Expectation. Klopp's never been in this position before. It was always, oh, miracle, congratulations. Now, if he doesn't win next season, I don't care if it's by 1 point. Failure. How's he going to deal with that? So, Mark, before I commit on Klopp, I have to see him now defend, because we know it's easy to win. I said it earlier. Stay on top. Chelsea's dynasties. Jose Mourinho, we can say, certified, great manager. Wherever he's gone, not only has he won, he's defended those titles. Right? Mourinho, Pep, the great ones. Heinekus. That's what I'd say. So Klopp, I'm not sold. I'm sorry, I'm not buying the media narrative that he's the darling. Senzo Sebe, what is your opinion on the IPL as a product? It's too much. Too much cricket. Bring the numbers of the games down. It's because it feels to me a little bit like Major League Baseball and their 162 game season. So just because I don't like IPL, it doesn't mean, or I don't like T20 cricket, but I realize that as a product, A-class, they nailed it for the first 5 years. Bring the numbers of games down, because what you do then is you create urgency. Too many games. So when you have almost make it get quicker to the playoff stuff. Right? That's why the NFL, in every game matters. 16 games, every game matters. It can determine whether you're in the playoffs or not. IPL kind of feels like, oh, let's just wait till the playoffs, doesn't it? It eventually wears on people. And you can have too much of a good thing. So initially, great. I think they caught in that Nokia moment right now is Nokia didn't pivot and BBM and BlackBerry came and took over. BBM didn't pivot when it was time. iPhone's here. Can they go to the next level? Can they say to themselves, let's shed our old skin? What worked then won't take us forward. So IPL, great product initially, good for cricket. Players are getting paid. That's always most important to me. But I think it's gone stale. You can't have too much of a good thing. Dave, what we got? The rig, MKT on air. I'm easily in the top 1% fittest people ever. I didn't say that. I said I'm in the top 1% fittest people alive, but I'd even throw in ever. No big deal. I've run sub 30-minute 10K twice. No big deal. Just saying. 242 marathoner at altitude. No big deal. No, not even a road runner. Ran a 2-hour 42 marathon. No big deal. Just saying. Just saying. Puts you in the top 10% in any race in the country, maybe in the world. 2 hours 42. Just saying. But my Strava says 6 minutes and 40-second pace in all his runs this month. So the rig's got me there in a corner. Maybe I'm living on my past. You know what I saw? So, hey, the rig, you've got me in a corner there. Because if it's not on Strava, it didn't happen. I guess if I do try and defend myself, I sound like that guy, you know, the drunk guy at a pub who always tells you how good he was when he was in high school, how he was provincial, and just the coaches just didn't have his side. So maybe I'm talking myself up too much. Maybe I'm not the hot runner I used to be. I think I am. It's a good point. I'm going to have to start. Listen, that's put some pressure on me. I'm going to have to start getting those Strava numbers up to get back into the 1% fittest people on earth. David, what do you have for me? Very, very good. Mark Francis says, I would definitely like your view on cricket development focusing on club level. I believe that the system is broken there and development is not being done the way that it should be done. Mark, you and I are together there. You and we are sisonke, as we say in South Africa. Mark, you know, it's incredible. And, you know, this is why South Africa will never be horrendous at cricket, is we have some of the best schools in the world. And I hate to sound like that guy again, but I was fortunate to go to a really good school here. And we had a brotherhood program with a really nice school in England. And I went there for an exchange for 6 months. And you realize how we are levels above the world. Levels above the world in terms of school. And South Africa really has like 25 world-class boys' schools. But not decent. Our public schools, you look at Boys High, DHS, Westville. These are world-class institutions, because I'll tell you, the schools I've just mentioned were better than the school that I exchanged at overseas that costs around 3 million rand a year to go to. Far better. The sport is better, the intensity is better, the camaraderie is better. Academia, you got to go to some of the top echelons in South Africa to match the academia overseas. But in terms of what we have, so I agree with you. And my point is this, is the talent's not the problem. Mark, we have a systemic failure, is that we keep losing the talent at 18, 19, because we do all right at kind of junior World Cups, and that's kind of faded. I think it's Graham Smith wants to address that. But then what happens to all this talent? But even then, Arsene Wenger has a great saying. He says, if a player in football, and it's relative to cricket, if a player in football has bad habits at 13, don't even look at him. It's too late. They say you can tell a person's personality at the age of 7. The Ajax system, the great Ajax system that has built the football you see today that we call tiki-taka, and the great Barcelona Le Masia system, is they say the golden years, between 3 and 7. Give us the boy, we will show you the man. That is the Ajax mantra. So in South Africa, unfortunately, What we've got is too much talent, not enough administrators and coaches. And already there we're lost. So I hope I haven't gone too far from your point. And you're talking about club cricket. It's an absolute shambles. It should be professional. It should be like county cricket. But once again, Mark, I think what we've got is the prominence in our sport is the bureaucrats instead of the millionaires and the money people. And, it is, Mark, we've forgotten one thing, is sport needs to be driven by becoming a product, even at the club level. Is give guys something to play for, give them something to win. They want to go overseas. We've got it so wrong. The structures are so wrong. What is the funneling system for a boy in the Eastern Cape to be able to play proper club cricket? Why is club champs not a world-class thing in South Africa? Because one thing for sure, we have world-class facilities. And I believe we have the same problem in rugby. We've got better talent than we've got administrators. It is a systemic failure. And Mark, I guess I could go on ad infinitum. I could go really ad infinitum. That's not it. Infantium. Anyway, I could go on forever about that. Joshua Bell says, MKT, love the show. Tuning in from Sydney. Oh, my. All the way in Sydney. By the way, I'm a Collingwood Magpie fan. Joshua Bell, are you an AFL guy? Sorry, I will take your question now. Collingwood. It's been terrible this season. If you don't watch AFL, I don't know what's wrong with your life. Joshua Bell says, hey, MKT, love the show. Tuning in from Sydney. Thoughts on the recent cricket SA admin issues? Will Beef be able to turn things around? Two great questions there. I think the admin issue, I presume you're talking about the match fixing thing. It's a joke. And, both sides are wrong. If you're talking about the match fixing side, both sides are wrong. Number one, Cricket South Africa, you should never have hidden this from us in the first place. Because remember what happened, and for those who know about the Hansie Cronje story, remember what happened with Hansie. It took about a month for us to get all of the details. And when you leave us out of bad news, it's like being in a relationship. Is how many times, ladies or men, they say, it's not about what you did to me. It's that you lied. It's not the fact that you did that deceptive or that immoral thing. That's not it. That's not what hurts me. It's that you lied to us. It's that they lied to us. Right? And if you're talking about the match fixing, if you're talking about Graham Smith and the Boucher debacle about whether they are fit, they weren't sort of employed correctly, it was nepotism or whatever. Here's what I'll do. In painful times, here's what I'll take. So I'm not sure if you're talking about that, but I'll address both. Because there's accusation of Graham Smith wasn't fit for the job, Mark Boucher wasn't fit for the job. Maybe you're talking about that, Mr. Bell. In painful times, I look for leadership. I look for strength. What I've seen from Graham Smith is that he will take no prisoners. This is no time for people's feelings. I'd like to use a war analogy. In war, there's no time to worry when you're on the battlefield. Because now it's live fire now. It's falling apart economically. So Graham Smith is now doing the job of people that should be sitting in office that are earning 300,000 Rand a month to go sit at home. Smith is having to do that job. He's having to repair the systems of administration, which Mr. Francis addressed so beautifully earlier, to say, what's happening with our talent? Why aren't we competing at under 19 anymore? Because the talent isn't the problem. We know our schools are world-class, and we've got the best private coaching systems. We've got Gary Kirsten churning out world-class cricketers there in Cape Town at the academy. So it's not the talent. Graham Smith is addressing that. He's addressing the corporate governance issues. And then he's addressing the most important thing, the cricket product. So I think it's a joke. We need leadership. We need strength. Graham Smith came in at 22. And what I love about Graham Smith, love him or hate him, is that he doesn't care if you like him. He will do what's best. And he's never shown that he's not ethical in terms of business. Because even when he came in the cricket, you don't have to like me, but I'll do what's best. I will defend South Africa against Kevin Peterson. I don't care who you are. I will defend the SA badge. So we need that strength. In crisis, you need leadership. What I love about Graham Smith is he's been clear. I'm going to make us competitive at a junior age. I'm going to sort out our systems from the juniors up to Protea cricket, and I'm going to sort out our local landscape. He was clear about that on the very first interview he had with Pomi Mbagwa. I remember watching that. Brilliant. So if that's the crisis you're talking about, I think what the bureaucrats need to do is shut the hell up, and let somebody who wants to actually be out front, because who knew who the previous guys were? Graham Smith is saying, right, all of the good things, it's me. All of the bad things, it's me. Don't we love that in leadership? I do. I appreciate Graham Smith. He's saying, I'm up front. I am responsible. Who has been running SA cricket for the last, since Majola up to now? Who's been running SA cricket? I'll give you, I'll buy a cappuccino for anybody who could name 2 of the last administrators we've had. It's been absolutely embarrassing. And I absolutely love Graham Smith and his strength. This is no time for flip-flopping. Will he turn it around? Absolutely. I believe absolutely, because he's shown he's got the fortitude. Remember when he took over? SA cricket was in a mess. We were floating around. We were still kind of bubbling. Was Herschel Gibbs match fixing? Was the Hunsey thing? You know, we were messing around with that. Who's the captain? Graham Smith came in and said, all right, Sean Pollock's no good. We need some direction. Will he turn it around? I like to work on what I've seen. And what I've seen is that Graham Smith doesn't care about being popular. He cares about doing the right thing in the cricket circles. I'm just talking about cricket. I don't know Graham Smith personally, but what I've seen of Graham Smith is that steel. And listen, it's all good and well. And I know we talk about everyone must be included in this new world. There's a brutality to winning. And Graham Smith has shown before that he's up for the fight. So absolutely he'll turn it around. And I think he's off to a good start. We're starting to see people get suspended. It means he's getting backing from the inner sanctums, you know, the people working behind the scenes. It means they're backing Smith. Because even now, we live in quite a political country. He was accused, okay, was it because he's a white guy that he got employed? They've stuck with him. So he's clearly come in, he's set up structures, and people are backing him. Even the political side is backing him. You haven't really, you can hear noise from certain sectors, but he's still in a job. Will he turn it around? I believe absolutely. So I believe Beefy can turn around. Will we be competitive within the next 5 years is a different question, because I think it'll take some time to root out that loser's mentality. Jesse Randolph says, in Arsenal's worst season in the Premier League era, we still won a title. It's about trophies, not top 4. People celebrating top 4, but forget they made fun of Arsenal for always, for always teasing, for always making top 4. Jesse, I agree with you. As a Chelsea fan, I'm not celebrating top 4. I'm revolted by not winning the title. But I've seen Man United fans, and knock, knock. Listen, sometimes you meet your destiny on the very road you took to avoid it. Sometimes you meet your destiny on the very road you took to avoid it. Man United fans, because I've been seeing what they've been saying about Arsenal and celebrating top 4 like it's a trophy. To be honest, as a Chelsea fan, no, I'm not celebrating top 4. So I hear you. Jesse, you're 100% right. It's hypocritical. If any Chelsea fan and Man United fan are celebrating top 4, you're a hypocrite. Jesse Randolph has got you in a corner, and he's dead right as an Arsenal fan. And if you're an Arsenal fan, you are bloody dead right. There are a bunch of hypocrites. In the words of Figile Mbalula, if you're a Chelsea and Man United fan, and you're celebrating top 4, you're a bunch of losers. You're a bunch of losers. Jesse Randolph, you're dead right, my man. And you got me. Listen, I guess I always celebrate I'm not separate from the Chelsea fans. So if Chelsea fans are celebrating top 4, we're hypocrites. I mustn't run away when the truth comes to my door. We're hypocrites. Jesse, you're dead right, man. You're dead right. Bunch of losers. Tell them I said they're a bunch of losers. And that includes me, I guess. And you hurt my feelings a bit now that I've thought about it. Joshua Bell says, impressed you follow the AFL. Oh, Adelaide Crows is my team, but it has been a horrible season for the Crows so far. Josh, listen, mate. Listen, Collingwood, I thought the way we started, it's because Steele Sidebottom got suspended for going out drinking. That's what happened. Steele Sidebottom, once he got that suspension, it's never been the same, hey? So, man, Collingwood, I thought this was the season. COVID will come together. But I don't know. All right, yeah, Adelaide, it's been a mess for you guys. We're gonna start showing more AFL stuff, by the way. Josh, we're gonna start. If you've got any AFL fans, tell them to start watching the show because I love the AFL. By the way, you know what's great about the AFL is the Collingwood owner is like one of the commentators and also like one of the really important people in the league. So it's crazy what they got going on in the AFL. And he's got a great podcast and a great radio show, by the way. This is like the owner and like the chairman. He is a massive character. So I love Collingwood. All right, Adelaide, Josh, love it, mate. AFL, great game if you haven't seen it. The Rig says, do you have a currently playing Test 11? I'll tell you what, we'll line that up. We haven't had Test cricket for a while, but I'll line that up. Mr. Francis, I loved your team, and thank you for the interaction. By the way, the beauty of picking these teams, I want people to have a go at me. Because if you're willing to be cocky enough to say, my team's the best, you got to be willing to listen to people's teams. And maybe we'll find a cricket simulator and we can play our 11s against each other. Jesse Randolph says, I'll tell you after the transfer window if the club backs Arteta. But if it's not a quick fix, Arsene was 20 years at the club. They changed everything at the club. The whole management structure changed. Jesse Randolph, I hear you. But as I've just said with the beauty of Grant Smith, I can't let Arsene Wenger off the hook. That's too easy. Because Arsene Wenger wants the glory of, I am an invincible. I brought you Thierry Henry. In life, that's not how it works. Is you don't just get to, hey, I did all the good stuff. And then when the bad stuff comes, you say, oh, that wasn't me. Either you're in charge or you're not. So, yes, Arsene Wenger, give him the glory. But did he stay 15 years too long? Did his ego take over? Because sometimes you need a new voice. And in the new world, there was a new way to operate. And Wenger wasn't willing to change. And the great saying is what? If you can't change your environment, you must change yourself. Right? Either you change the environment, and if you can't do that, you have to change yourself. That's what self-aware people do. And my accusation of Arsene Wenger, he wasn't self-aware enough of when to let go. Listen, 5 years and Arsenal fall behind. Okay, I say, Wenger, you built this. 10 years, Mr. Wenger is becoming uncomfortable. 15 years. He went 22 seasons with no trophies. Of the 20, no. Sorry, he was there 22 seasons. It was 18 seasons with no trophies. Or with no title. No, sir. So, Jesse, I can't just excuse Arsene Wenger. Because you give him the glory. And we must do this with everyone in life. Is if I give you all the glory, you must take all the bad with it. Otherwise, what are we doing here? Right? If you want to be at the top dog, celebrate the good and the bad. Celebrate the good and the bad. We'll take 2 more questions, folks, and then we will be out of here. Thank you so much for the engagement from everybody. And remember, guys, before I take this Mark's question, by the way, great question, is that if you want to send us your video opinions from around the world, whatever sport it may be, send us your videos and you can send them to me on sport@cliffcentral.com. That's sport, no S, sport@cliffcentral.com. Mark Francis says, I know that Sascock is driving a 2030 project to address development of cricket and other sports within the federations. Hopefully they get it right. I remain optimistic. Mark, I'm on your side. I want to remain optimistic. But Mark, in order to have success in life, we live in an economically driven world. There has to be a brutality. It can't just be conversations in air-conditioned rooms all the time. So I remain optimistic because, you know what, I love South Africans. Whenever, you know what, we always leave it till the last minute, but when we've had to do the right thing, we've done it. So I just believe in South Africans, and it might be because I'm biased. I live here, and I love this country, and the people are great. South Africans are great. I don't care what people say. But we now need to have adult conversations because, you know, Mark, you may or may not agree with me. I'm going to say what I'm going to say anyway. I believe this. Adult conversations don't end at the conversation. When you make a promise, right? And this is where in my life I've fallen short far too many times, is that we think a promise ends. So when you make the promise with your lips is when the promise ends. No. That's when the promise starts. Right? Is when you make the promise with your mouth, that's when the promise starts. That's not when it ends. And haven't we seen too much of that? I believe the term is lip service. The promise ends when you fulfill what you said you were going to do. So how many times have Sascock said this, Mark? So of them, I am skeptical. But of us as South Africans, and I love the term, that are gatvol, because that's what we are now. There's no religious creed, there's no skin tone that isn't gatvol of incompetence. Eventually, you know what happens? Is we as South Africans will go, no thanks, let's go find money. You know what South Africans do? Is we'll go find money. And you know what we'll do? We'll build Silicon Cape. We'll build a wine industry and shelter it from South African governments. We'll build the third most prominent wine industry in the world, in a country where it should be impossible to have such a thing. This is what South Africans do. I know we always hear bad news about this country, is we'll insulate the wine industry, right, from the pesky government in South Africa. Right? We've done this. So there is precedence in South Africa for us being capable of, we're gatvol, okay, get out the way. We're going to do this thing legally, and we don't need you. And it'll be successful on a world level. We've done it before as South Africans, so we mustn't think we were starting something new. Sascock, get out the way. Us as South Africans, let's get that corporate money. Let's get our best and brightest, of which there is plenty in this country. Because if you go to Silicon Cape, if you go to Google in South Africa, I've had the chance to spend time with incredible minds. We've got the best and the brightest here. They're just being suppressed by annoying bureaucrats. So get the bureaucrats out the way. And look at our wine industry. This is not the first time our wine industry's been on its knees. It's recovered every time. Why? Billionaires, millionaires, the best and the brightest are innovative. They will always find a way. So, Mark, I think now it's time for the little kids conversation, which is what lip service is. It's the adult conversation. It's to say the promise doesn't end when we make it. It starts when we make it. And then here's the plan. Here's the people that will be liable. And if they are not liable over 1, 3, 5, 10 years, guillotine. That's what we do, right? And I believe we are there. Because let them eat cake. That only lasts so long. Ask the French bourgeoisie how that ended, and every single regime where the people became gatvol. Senzo Sitebe, we'll finish off on this great point. Senzo Sitebe says, Fergie and Wenger are to blame for the downfalls. They didn't set the next guy. And I know it hurts Man United fans to hear this. Alex Ferguson gets all the glory because everybody always says what? He's the greatest. He built this all on his own. Nobody ever gives David Gill credit. Nobody ever does that. Nobody ever says Roy Keane. Without Roy Keane, it was possible. It was impossible. Nobody ever says Brian Robson. Without him, without his great. Nobody says Pallister. Nobody says Schmeichel. What do people always say? Fergie's United teams. Yeah, but that means Fergie. And we know now Fergie had a hand in Moyes. And don't give me the nonsense about Guardiola being on a sabbatical. Fergie should have been self-aware enough 3 or 4 seasons before, because when you're going to retire. I know lots of CEOs. CEOs are planning 10 years before they leave, by the way. I know this because I sit in rooms. I have mentors. You're planning your exit plan 10 years. 5 years, you start to execute and groom the next one. Fergie maybe got the God complex. And once again, it's simple for me. If you want to give Fergie all the glory, then he must take all of the blame for what happened after him, because he was part of the selection process for the next guys. Did he leave the squad in a shambles? That's on Fergie. Man United fans must answer that. And it's difficult because we attach ourselves to these great leaders. And it's impossible for us to critique them because they become mythical figures to us. But Fergie and Wenger, they started to show a lack of self-awareness in those last 5 years. Why was somebody... Because there's 2 options, right? There's the Barcelona model. You groom from within, right? Because when Pep was going, Barcelona were ready, right? How ready were they? No worries. They went Rijkaard, no problem. We've got another guy ready. Where's he? He's in the Barcelona B team. Pep left. What happened? No problemo. We're gonna keep this thing rolling, and they certainly have, because we've got plenty of guys in the B team. There's that model, or there's the Man City model. Pellegrini, no good. Rotate, you're out. Next guy, rotate, you're out. Next guy, rotate, you're out. Pep, you're on the hot seat. So those are the two models. United got caught in between. They thought Moyes, okay, working class, Scottish, we'll go with that. Uh-oh. All right, let's go turn around the whole Titanic. Van Gaal, Mourinho. So you've already had 4 managers that are completely different philosophies that aren't even Man United's philosophy. Oh dear. So you got to pick a model. Either you promote from within, or you go the Man City Chelsea model. Keep rotating him. Keep rotating him. And United don't look comfortable with either. So Fergie Wenger must take responsibility. Listen, folks, this has been a banger of a show. Thank you to everybody who contributed. And by the way, sport@cliffcentral.com. We're back tomorrow. Vody will choose, of course, her number 7. I believe we're choosing her blindside flanker. Will be Vody's feature tomorrow. We'll be back again tomorrow. Sport@cliffcentral.com. Ladies and gentlemen, you're helping us revolutionize the way we deliver sport. Big Shot Media, Cliff Central Sport. You could have been anywhere tonight, but you've joined us. The revolution continues. A luta continua, as they say. Ladies and gentlemen, for tonight, it has been a different brawl game. Hasta mañana.